Karl Marx, German, Marx, May 5, 1818 to March 14, 1883, was a German-born philosopher, economist, political theorist, historian, sociologist, journalist, and revolutionary socialist. His best-known works are the 1848 pamphlet The Communist Manifesto, with Friedrich Engels, and the three-volume Das Kapital, 1867–1894, the latter employs his critical approach of historical materialism in an analysis of capitalism and is the culmination of his intellectual efforts. Marx's ideas and theories and their subsequent development, collectively known as Marxism, have exerted enormous influence on modern intellectual, economic and political history. Born Karl Marx, A. May 5, 1818. Trier, Kingdom of Prussia, German Confederation. Died March 14, 1883, aged 64. London, England. Burial place: Tomb of Karl Marx. Nationality: Prussian, 1818–1845. Stateless, after 1845. Education: University of Bonn, University of Berlin, University of Jena, Ph.D., 1841. Philosophy career: Era: 19th century philosophy. Region: Western philosophy. School: Continental philosophy. Marxism. Thesis: The difference between the Democritean and Epicurean philosophy of nature, 1841. Doctoral advisor: Bruno Bauer. Main interests: Philosophie économique, Histoire politics. Notable ideas: Marxist terminology. Value form. Contributions to dialectics and the Marxian critique of political economy. Class conflict. Alienation and exploitation of the worker. Materialist conception of history. Born in Trier in the Kingdom of Prussia, Marx studied at the universities of Bonn, Berlin, and Jena, and received a doctorate in philosophy from the latter in 1841. A young Hegelian, he was influenced by the philosophy of Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, and both critiqued and developed Hegel's ideas in works such as The German Ideology, written 1846, and The Grundrisse, written 1857–1858. While in Paris in 1844, Marx wrote his economic and philosophic manuscripts and met Engels, a lifelong friend and collaborator. After moving to Brussels in 1845, they were active in the Communist League, and in 1848 wrote the Communist Manifesto, which expresses Marx's ideas and lays out a program for revolution. Marx was expelled from Belgium and Germany, and in 1849 moved to London, where he wrote the 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte, 1852, and Das Kapital. In 1864, Marx helped found the International Workingmen's Association, First International, in which he sought to fight the influence of anarchists led by Mikhail Bakunin. In his critique of the Gotha Program, 1875, Marx wrote on revolution, the state and the transition to communism. He died stateless in 1883 and was buried in Highgate Cemetery. Marx's critiques of history, society, and political economy hold that human societies develop through class conflict. In the capitalist mode of production, this manifests itself in the conflict between the ruling classes, known as the bourgeoisie, that control the means of production, and the working classes, known as the proletariat, that enable these means by selling their labor power in return for wages. For employing his historical materialist approach, Marx predicted that capitalism produced internal tensions like previous socio-economic systems, and that these tensions would lead to its self-destruction and replacement by a new system known as the socialist mode of production. For Marx, class antagonisms under capitalism, owing in part to its instability and crisis-prone nature, would eventuate the working class's development of class consciousness, leading to their conquest of political power and eventually the establishment of a classless, communist society constituted by a free association of producers. 5. Marx actively pressed for its implementation, arguing that the working class should carry out organized proletarian revolutionary action to topple capitalism and bring about socio-economic emancipation. 6. Marx has been described as one of the most influential figures in human history, and his work has been both lauded and criticized. 7. Marxism has exerted major influence on socialist thought and political movements, and during the 20th century revolutionary governments identifying as Marxist took power in many countries and established socialist states including the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China. A number of theoretical variants such as Leninism, Marxism-Leninism, Trotskyism, and Maoism have been developed. Marx's work in economics has a strong influence on modern heterodox theories of labor and its relation to capital. 8, 9, 10, and he is typically cited as one of the principal architects of modern social science. Marx's thought demonstrates influence from many sources, including but not limited to George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel's philosophy, the classical political economy, economics, of Adam Smith and David Ricardo, as well as Jean-Charles Leonard de Sismondi's critique of laissez-faire economics and analysis of the precarious state of the proletariat. French socialist thought, in particular the thought of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Henri de Saint-Simon, Pierre-Joseph Proudhon and Charles Fourier. Earlier German philosophical materialism among the young Hegelians, particularly that of Ludwig Feuerbach and Bruno Bauer, as well as the French materialism of the late 18th century, including Diderot, Claude Adrien Helvetius and D. Holbach. Friedrich Engels' analysis of the working class, as well as the early descriptions of class provided by French liberals and Saint-Simonians such as François Guizot and Augustin Thierry. Marx's Judaic legacy has been identified as formative to both his moral outlook and his materialist philosophy. Marx's view of history, which came to be called historical materialism, controversially adapted as the philosophy of dialectical materialism by Engels and Lenin, certainly shows the influence of Hegel's claim that one should view reality and history dialectically, however, whereas Hegel had thought in idealist terms, putting ideas in the forefront. Marx sought to conceptualize dialectics in materialist terms, arguing for the primacy of matter over idea. Where Hegel saw the spirit as driving history, Marx saw this as an unnecessary mystification, obscuring the reality of humanity and its physical actions shaping the world. He wrote that Hegelianism stood the movement of reality on its head, and that one needed to set it upon its feet. Despite his dislike of mystical terms, Marx used Gothic language in several of his works. In the Communist Manifesto he proclaims, "A spectre is haunting Europe, the spectre of communism. All the powers of old Europe have entered into a holy alliance to exorcise this spectre," and in the Capital he refers to capital as necromancy that surrounds the products of labor. Though inspired by French socialist and sociological thought, Marx criticized utopian socialists, arguing that their favored small-scale socialistic communities would be bound to marginalization and poverty and that only a large-scale change in the economic system could bring about real change. Other important contributions to Marx's revision of Hegelianism came from Engels's book, The Condition of the Working Class in England in 1844, which led Marx to conceive of the historical dialectic in terms of class conflict and to see the modern working class as the most progressive force for revolution, as well as from the social democrat Friedrich Wilhelm Schultz, who in Die Bewegung der Produktion described the movement of society as flowing from the contradiction between the forces of production and the mode of production. Marx believed that he could study history and society scientifically, discerning tendencies of history and thereby predicting the outcome of social conflicts. Some followers of Marx, therefore, concluded that a communist revolution would inevitably occur. However, Marx famously asserted in the 11th of his Theses on Feuerbach that philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point however is to change it, and he clearly dedicated himself to trying to alter the world. Marx's theories inspired several theories and disciplines of future, including but not limited to contemporary critique of political economy, Kondratiev wave and Kuznets swing, theory of underconsumption, creative destruction, crisis theory, quantitative economic history, world systems theory.